rankings came out today. It was updated, and our boys got absolutely just slaughtered in their rankings, okay? And it wasn't just us. There's a few other players, too. Denson was a big one that had a lot to say about it. And we got to talk about it because everyone's tweeting at these guys, and not Simmons, but Shannon Terry, the owner of On3, got himself into some debates here. He decided to answer to some tweets, which is interesting to me. I feel like that's what Twitter does, though. It allows for people, big heads to talk to just your everyday people, right? That's the only time you see big heads and CEOs responding to user 6912743. It's weird, but Twitter does that. That's what Twitter does. They rally up the troops and get you all flustered. So he responded to a tweet, basically because somebody was saying that Chad Simmons, is biased against Florida. He says Chad Simmons does not participate in rankings in any form. He is our lead reporter and a great one. All football scouting and rankings are managed by Charles Power. He bashes Charles a lot here. Everyone's questioning Charles, and he just keeps tagging at Charles. He was the head of scouting and rankings for 247 at the time he left for On3. There is no bias against UF, I promise. Now, obviously nobody believes it, right? The fact that he's responding to it means that the noise is starting to trickle up the ladder of like, hey, what's going on here? Right? No disrespect to anybody, but it just, somebody said the best. Like, hey, look, we need actions, not words, right? And and I'll get into the numbers here in just a minute, but I want to show you this next tweet. So somebody asked the question, does Newberg or Simmons have a bias against UF, even if they don't do the rankings? He goes, they are not part of the scouting and rankings team. They are reporters and talents, no input. I wouldn't even respond to that, to be honest with you, because you basically just told me, yeah, they're extremely biased. Now, look, obviously I have my bias. So we run a show here, we do our thing here, we have our bias. I think there's a level of like saying like, hey, yeah, I don't like this team. I'm going to have an opinion about it, and then trying to act like you don't have an opinion about it. This is a weird scenario here because if you work, obviously everyone's a sports fan. It's hard not to be a bias about a situation, but if I'm a Gator fan and I work for a company like this, a national brand, and I only report, I do a lot of reporting on FSU, naturally, I'm not going to have anything positive to say. There's always going to be a negative undertone to it. That's just facts. And if he has any hatred towards Florida or anything like that, then yeah, there's always going to be negative. It's like, yeah, I get it. He's just talent. He's a reporter. But people go to your site for information, for education, to get educated. That's how you have represented yourself. That's how you have marketed yourself. We know what I do here. there's nothing to shy about it, right? So I think that's the there's an issue there. There's a little bit of and again, it's not. I understand you can't hire people who aren't fans. That's just not going to work. But just don't report on teams that you're negative about. Like I could go over to the Pac-12 and report on all the teams. I've got no bias against them. I rag on USC, but at the end of the day, it's like, hey, Sheldon, you're going to cover the Pac-12 football schools because you don't have anything to do with them. It's like being a ref, right? You got to be able to separate it. He's not doing a good job separating it. And look, he may not have an influence on recruiting, but he definitely has an influence on the videos that come out, on the knowledge that's dropped, because he knows about it. He knows what's going on. I mean, we've seen this happen before where these guys in their comments have more than likely impacted a commit or two, right? Because they've dropped things earlier. They said things. They dropped the whole Austin Simmons thing well before it was known. Remember that? Completely made a whole video saying it's committed. Nobody said a word, and they were riding high on it. And then he had to go and eat his words, but what does he care? He got his clicks and he got his views. So that's the other part here, right? Everyone's like, well, it's nonsense. On3 is not going to go anywhere, though. And all this is just keeping them in the news constantly, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. And it seems to be like for the fact that he's responding to these tweets, and the people that are tweeting this out don't have much of a following, tells me that he is, he's enjoying this. Because why respond? If you're not guilty, right, and nobody's bringing a question to you that has of a higher power, it wasn't like a 247 big head was like, yeah, there seems to be some question marks here with On3. Then if I'm Shannon Terry, go, hey, easy, right? That's another company taking a shot at you. If you got user 2479 taking a shot, right, and you're responding to it, why is it getting to you? Why is it bothering you? I got questions. Hightop sports recruiting site. Obviously, I'd be biased too. Like, you know what I mean? Like another tweet from Denson. So let me go ahead and hold on. This is what Denson, who just committed to Michigan State, mind you, just a friendly reminder, On3 Recruits tagging them. This is balls here, boys. And Charles Power had me ranked at number 19 in the beginning of the spring. Mind you, the spring was 2 months ago. Went up every website but On3. Somehow I dropped 70 spots. That's a ton. That is an absolute ton. Now, the other issue with that, right, is hold on. Let me pull up the stats here really quick. The other big, concern and question mark is that everybody's saying is like nobody's played a football game. So let me take a look here and show you here. 4 of Florida's top 6 commits dropped an average 70 spots in the ranking despite 0 games being played. Okay? DJ Lagway, Miles Graham, Adarius, and Childs all dropped. Okay? Mind you, Miles Graham just got a 5th star in Rivals. So I don't know what 2 people are seeing, but is what it is. Darius Hayes, now ranked 118th nationally. Remember, Adarius, it was like 4, 5, and 6. We had the 4, 5, and 6 linebackers. Miles Graham is now 9th. Adarius Hayes is now 7th. Aaron Childs is now 14th. The only person, and I might get some flack for this, the only person that I'm okay with is the DJ Lagway drop down. Because they had the Elite 11 camp, there are a lot of people that weren't pleased with his performance. This is not me. This is not my thoughts. This is not my opinions. There was a lot of criticism that came out. So FSU's quarterback jumped up. We had some FSU guys in our chat getting all riled up about it and saying, talking shit. But look, and even Dave said, look, he's not a big fan of the Elite 11 because they take half of the season plus half of the camp. It is what it is. But I'm okay with that drop because they're going off his production. They're using the last thing they saw, which was up against every other elite quarterback with top wide receivers. I'm not here to argue that the wide receivers were tired. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying there is some validity with DJ Lagway's ranking dropping. The only person that I'm okay with. I'm not okay with the drop, but if you're going to drop somebody, his at least makes sense, right? The other 3 haven't played a game. We were hanging out at Friday Night Lights 2 weeks ago. So I don't know where this is coming from. Makes 0 sense to me, okay? 0 sense to me with the drop to those 3 guys. Remember when we had Miles Graham on, okay? And somebody tweeted, I think it was James Ridgely, tweeted out saying how much he loves Chad Simmons. And he laughed. He goes, no, I'm not a big fan of that guy. He goes, him and I are going to have some grown man conversations once I get through college because he understands, like, I can't say too much because these guys do control that. He was hinting towards that when that happened. He goes, yeah, I'm not a big fan of those guys on 3. And so I don't know how much power that we, the people, in our comments and the players, we, the people, we're always going to be upset. We're fans. We're fanatics. We're always going to be rowdy. That is what it is, right? But when you start upsetting players, right? If I'm a player at some point, and their issue is because right now they hold, it's a monopoly with On3. They control all the camps. They're doing a great job with marketing and creating these NIL camps and these meetings and whatnot. So if you get invited to that, it's an honor to go. At some point, though, if a big guy gets screwed, a top talented player gets screwed over or feels like one of his boys gets screwed over, it's going to take a few of them to go, no, I'm not going to that camp. You guys disrespect us. You pick and choose based on what we tell you and how we communicate with you and how we function with you and whether or not we tell you how we're feeling that day or whether or not we text you back. That's what's really driving the rankings. It's not about how well we play. It's not about what we're doing. Again, a big thing, and this is a huge criticism that happened last year, and we said it, and it's not necessarily a knock, but Arch Manning. We know why Arch was. Bro, that guy was not a perfect scorer. The guy played at like 2A against 9th graders. Like, you're simply going off the fact that he's Arch Manning, and you know that having Arch in your top rating is going to be good for clicks. And that's unfortunately where things are headed, and that's what's frustrating to me. But look, it's frustrating. And again, everyone says don't use them. Look, 247, in my opinion, is probably the best with just staying kind of even keel with things. They don't move too quickly. Outside of being burned by that Kermani McLean situation, because I was a part of that, they do a pretty damn good job. Rivals, I've never really followed too much. I might start following them a little bit more. It's a little clunky in my opinion, just their sites and the way it looks. They do have some good data there. Obviously, ESPN's an absolute joke, so I'll never use ESPN. But yeah, it's very frustrating. As you guys are all frustrated, and look, I know what's going to happen is all these fans are going to come out and say, Florida's bitching again. I'm sure some Tennessee guy will make a video saying, Florida's bitching about their rankings. Look, at the end of the day, it's just a number, right? If it takes us down 10 points because On3 wants to screw with our rankings a little bit, it doesn't control what happens on the field. We know that. But now you're messing with these kids' money because where they come out of high school and their value, that's going to affect the NIL evaluation, right? And just that's part of it. It's not the entire thing, but it's definitely a part of it because if it comes out as a 5-star, he's going to be able to get more deals coming into college versus if he's a 4-star. That's just a matter of fact. It's like a first-round draft pick versus a second-round draft pick. That signing bonus is going to be a lot bigger. So you're playing with kids' money now. Before, it was just a little bit like kind of playing with the schools, but now you're starting to attack the kids. And I think that's where the pushback is going to start becoming more and more as we go on with this situation here. So we'll see. But make sure you guys drop a like. We got 350 people in here, which is incredible on a Monday. I really appreciate you guys coming in here and hanging out. Again, subscribing, dropping some love means the absolute world to me. So we'll see. Player rankings don't matter once you get to college. Everybody has to prove themselves. Exactly. And I totally agree, right? I totally agree. But look, you got fans that follow recruiting in the offseason. We care about this. This means something to us, right? We're chasing something. These numbers and metrics, yeah, I understand they don't mean anything on the field, but it gives you an idea. It gives you a reference to how are we doing? How is Billy performing off the field? It's a number. That's why it was created in the first place. So it's very easy to discredit it and say, oh, it doesn't matter because once they get on the field, who cares anyways? And you're right. But right now, when they're not on the field and we're trying to gauge how well the class is doing, how well Billy is performing in the recruiting, this is all we have. So there has to be, we need to have an even keel and even ground to this, right? That's my thoughts on that. But look, I mean, how much of this will change? I don't know. I think we're on a good path here. I think it's on a good start. I definitely think there will be a meeting about this saying, hey, if at this point, right, perception is reality. So you can come on here and you could tweet these things just like he did right here, saying, Chad Simmons does not participate in rankings in any form. He's our lead reporter. And somebody even said, like, how did you drop Waller? And he goes, look, he may have got it wrong on Waller. Maybe he's missing a beat, whatever it may be. I can assure you there's going to be a meeting here because, again, perception is reality. And if the perception is that On3 is biased against Florida and possibly other schools, it's going to eventually start to become, it's already there. We're already at the reality point. And if I'm Shannon Terry, it's like, look, man, this is a massive school. Now, he did make a good point, made a great argument. And this is something that I was talking with Professor the other day, is the team they've hired for Florida. There is a massive beat writer team for Florida. I feel like it continues to grow. There's like 6 of them, it feels like. It's insane. They keep hiring more of them. And it's just like article after article after article. And there's a ton of information on the On3 side of things for Florida football. It's incredible. And what I was saying was the professor is when I went over to Colorado trying to get kind of a gauge of like maybe is there any like recruiting news going on that I'm just missing? Nothing. Not a word. The writing for them is atrocious. And a good point him and I discussed was, well, look, it makes sense. They obviously probably didn't have any writers that way because why would you? It was Colorado. And they're probably a little hesitant to hire anybody for Colorado at this time because they don't know how long it's going to last. So all that makes sense. And again, he's why would I bash a team? Why would I bash Florida when I have put so much money, i.e. hiring all these people? That's a good point. That is a good point. But again, we're still going to talk about it. We're still going to be reading it. And again, we don't have any disrespect, myself anyways, doesn't have any disrespect towards the Florida guys. Not at all. So we'll see, guys. It is an interesting one. It is an interesting one on how it's all playing out. But this definitely blew up today, for sure, more than it has in a long time. And again, I think, look, they like to do their, quarterly updates of the rankings. It gives them something to talk about. I appreciate it. But at the same time, where is it coming from? I think that that would help them a little bit, right? You drop somebody 70 spots. You drop Aaron Childs from the 6th ranked linebacker to 14. I want to know why. What made you want to drop him 10 spots? There needs to be a little blurb for each guy because think how many players are moving around. You move around the top 200 guys. You just shuffling around. How much work is he really putting into this? And I'm sure he's putting in a lot. I'm not questioning his work ethic here, the Charles Power guy, but I want to know why you moved him. You tell me why you moved him. Then there's no more question marks.